All right, welcome back. We are COMP1116, that's Game Programming 3 in the fall 2025 semester at Georgian, and it's week 12, part 2 of our broadcast and recording. And in this part, let's skim down to where we were, right? We were just talking about items, but we really don't have any way at this point for the item to do damage. So what we want to do is kind of create a method so when an object or character or whatever gets hit, it gets hurt. So how do you do that? So first we're going to start off with an interface, and that's how we're going to do. We're going to add an interface to all hittable objects, if you will. So it's going to be the hit interface. Let's do that. So to do this, I'm going to go into Unreal Engine and just going to add a new class. I'm going to right click and add new class here, and I'm going to scroll all the way down to where it says interface. We've done this before when we made the interactable kind of interface equivalent. I'm going to click next, and I'm going to change this to hit interface and click create class. So give it a second. Hopefully it's going to look pretty good. Okay, let's reload the project. And then what we want to do, as always, is two things. We want to wait for this live coding to finish. So that's finished now. And then the other thing we want to do is wait for the project to reload in Visual Studio, because that has to happen as well. And so what it's doing is it's reloading the Visual Studio projects, all the little parts to it. And so until that happens, can't do much. So here, just going to remove the boilerplate comments because I don't like those. I've spoken about those before. Just a waste. Probably would do that for the Ubisoft stuff too. Probably remove all their comments. Don't care about that stuff. All right. So things of note. Remember, interfaces, they have two classes that are built in. One that's internal and one that's external. That's the thing to note with interfaces. Here, what we're going to do is, if I go back to this, once we've done this, we're going to get into the C++, the C++ side. We're going to close down File, Save All, close down the editor, and then back in Visual Studio, we're going to do all these changes. So the only thing we want to add in to Visual Studio is this get hit function. Remember, interfaces have one or more functions that they, in other languages, must be overridden, right? They must override. But here, the way they've done it in Unreal Engine is they made it so that you may override, the interfaces, but as long as you inherit from or as long as you implement this interface. Now notice that a base character, it doesn't know anything about a base character. Again, we would forward declare even in the interface. So make sure you do that. So forward declaration. So we're going to say class a base character. F vector is good. We don't care about that. We will make this a blueprint native event and a blueprint callable. Going to make it in the combat category, and it's going to have a display name of get hit. So it's not going to be called get hit event or something weird like that. Okay. So once you've got this thing in place, then the next part is adding it to the base character. So I'm going to close this interface down now. I don't need this anymore. And let's actually add in, we'll put that up on DevOps because we just added a new thing. So we'll say here, we'll say git add dot, git commit -n. We'll say added hit interface. Okay, that's something that is different. It's a whole other tool, like an enum. We'd add in. We don't want to put it in the enemy. We want to put it in the base character. So both player and enemy because both player and enemy inherit from base character, they can both be hit. Then what we want to do is we want to implement, and the way you implement or you inherit from is you're going to put a comma like we did before, and it's going to be a public I hit interface. And one thing to note is you need to do the include. Visual Studio did it for me, but it's got to be up here. And again, and the reason for this that you can't forward declare is because it's like inheritance. Anything you inherit from, it's got to be up here. Okay, there's no choice about that. If you don't do that, bad things happen to good people, and your program won't run properly. So that's the first part. So we add this I hit interface to the base character. Next, we want to support things in the base character by adding a couple more things. So in the public section, what we want to do is we want to add in this stuff, and let's talk about it. So public, put it in here, and let's talk about these things. So remember that we have a take damage. Take damage we've seen before last semester, first half of the semester, feels like a whole semester ago. We were doing the drone example, and we used take damage. Take damage basically allows us to respond to take damage. So we apply damage. That's kind of the message that we send. And then we take damage. That's where we're receiving the damage. So when we receive damage, we receive a damage amount, what caused the damage, and so on. What's the damage causer, and so on. Then we have this get hit implementation. Why? Because the get hit implementation is required because even though the event is called get hit, in C++, we need to create a virtual override so we can do this get hit implementation differently for both the player and the enemy. Okay, so this is what we have this. And then we also want to add in a couple of different things here, again, inside of base character, right? So in the protected section, we want to come back down here now. We've done some montages, and we're going to play the hit react montage. We're going to make a new montage, so when you get hit, you move, like the character gets rocked, kind of thing. Where they get hit, this is kind of neat. So if they get hit from the side, the back, the front, we're going to spawn some particles. The particles are going to be kind of a particle system that we're going to use to spawn some blood that comes out when you get hit. And then we're going to map a hit react montage. So again, this is like creating an item to map. We already have UN and montage, so we don't have to forward declare this one. U particle system we don't have, so I recommend you forward declare that. So here is this one. Again, always forward declare, classes that you haven't included, that aren't here, or that, and then include them again inside of the CPP, right? So there's take damage. We also have this set weapon collision enabled, and what it does is it allows us to, when we're striking, we don't want to use the entire blade. We don't want to make this thing strike all the time, and for reasons, because otherwise what ends up happening is if I'm striking and I hit the enemy, I can hit them by accident, right, with this blade, because it's a live blade, right? So the problem that we have, right, with the blade being live is if I can hit you just by moving towards you, right? I don't have to even I don't even have to attack you. If the blade is live, I can just go like, hit, and then now you're hit. I don't want that. I want it to be only live when I'm striking, right? So I'm not going to accidentally hit you with the blade, which means we have to enable and disable the weapon collision and only enable it when it's hitting. Okay, that's the thing with it. Okay, so that's an important part that we want to make sure that we have. Okay, so that's one thing. So there's a few things here that we're trying to do. We're also playing the hit react montage and all these other things. And let's start defining some stuff. So one is the hit react montage. Again, for me to do this, I'm going to include everything. So a base character, I'm going to go here and generate definitions. There's a pile of them. I'm going to click finish. It's going to create all those empty definitions inside of the CPP file. And then the first thing I want to do is define the play hit react montage. So what happens? So first we test to see if the montage exists, did we make a reference to it in the blueprint? This is what this is. Then we'll just play the montage section, whatever the section name is we want to play. There's going to be different hit reactions. If you get hit from the front or the back or whatever, you're going to react differently. Okay, so that's what's going to happen there. Next, what we want to do is, this is the directional hit react. So it's a little bit complex, but I'll go through it with you just so you understand what the thinking is around this. So the impact point is where you're getting hit. And what you want to use is, depending on which position the mesh gets hit, right? You want to create a different reaction. So if I get hit from the right side, I want to kind of move in the other direction. I want to follow the physics, as an example, as we see. Now, we're not using ragdoll here. That's another option to do. You can make ragdoll yourself for like a second, and we can let the physics, kind of add physics to this thing. We're not doing that right now, but we could. So forward is the get actor forward vector. So that is for the base character. So whether it's where the character is looking. Impact lowered, all right? So I want you to think about what this is. It takes two parts to this. So we're getting the impact point, right, X and Y, and we're getting get actor location on the Z, like where they are, higher or lower, is that what that is? And we're creating this, vector, an F vector, right? That's what it is, which is a vector called impact lower. We're just instantiating it here. We're doing it in one line here. There's many ways you could have done this, but this is just the way it's being done. To hit, right, is impact lowered, so wherever the impact is, and we're lowering it. So the actor Z position is, if you want to talk about the middle of the actor, that's why we're calling it impact lowered. So impact lowered minus the get actor location, as an example, is we're creating a normal, almost like a line that goes from, where you're hitting on the, on the shoulder, to the middle of the actor. We're creating that the line. Okay, that's what we're doing, and we're creating basically. Once we have two hits, that's the direction that we're getting hit. From wherever you get hit to the middle of the actor creates a direction. That's what that is. So to hit is the direction. Now we're going to use some math, and we're going to use a dot product to try and figure out the angle that you're getting hit, right? So that's the angle that we're going to put into cos theta. So we're going to get the arc cos. We're going to derive the angle. That's what theta is. And then we're going to convert it from radians to degrees. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So first we get an angle in radians. We're going to convert it to degrees. And then from there, we're going to use the cross product. And cross product that basically tells us, in no uncertain terms, the direction, right? So we're going to use this. So if the cross product is less than 0, then we're going to multiply it by -1, right? That's what it's going to be. So that means that if the cross product Z, we're going to basically turn it around. So if somehow, the angle is negative, we're going to make it positive. If it's positive, it's going to be negative. That's what this is. If the cross product Z is less than 0, that means if it's like, remember if you're using the right hand rule, right? When we create the cross product, it basically tells you the direction, right? So then there's different things we're going to activate. So the section name is what we want to select, whether it's from back and from front or from left or from right. So we're saying if the angle is greater than -45 and less than 45 degrees, and again, if you're looking at it from a top-down perspective, that's the angles we're looking at. That's from where you're getting hit from the back. Okay, so again, this is, if this is from the back, this is from the front, this is in the front of you. So if you're in 45 degrees in front of you, you're getting hit from the front, right? The default, this one here, is from the front, from the back. Okay, that's what this is. This is being hit if your cross product is, kind of like -360 as an example, okay, or +360. That's what this is, okay? But this is from the front. So the angle is going to be a 90-degree angle from -45 to +45 in the front. If you get hit there, that's coming from the front. We have to define those, because how do you determine what part becomes your side, as an example? The side, right? So from the left side is negative 135 to negative 45. So again, that, if you notice, that's a 90-degree angle on the left, right? And this is a 90-degree angle on the right, and then we already have the back. Okay, so that's the way we do which direction you're being hit from, and it's all based on the angle of incidence. So when you from where you're striking to the middle of the character, that creates the direction, and from there you get an angle. So you're going to play a hit montage a react montage based on whichever one we have. We don't have this yet, but we're going to create these. These hit react montages where they have a from back, from front, and so on montage section, and that's what this does. That's the directional hit react. Next, I want to talk about some other functions, spawn hit particles. We've done this before, but spawn hit particles, let's just jump there. So here it is. So we need to include Kismet gameplay statics, right? Because that's where the spawn, the emitter works from. We can't spawn an emitter without gameplay statics. If you were to try and do this in Blueprints, it would ask you the same thing. If you ever hover over the node, it tells you gameplay statics. So that's what that is. And then take damage. All we're going to do is return the damage amount. All we care about right now is getting the damage. When we take damage. So I'm just going to go back to take damage. So instead of returning this, we're just going to return the damage amount. That's the thing we care about, because it's a float. So we want how much damage we just took. That's all we care about. Then the hit implementation, and this is interesting. And this is the default, right? The default hit implementation that we're defining. So here, right? We're basically saying this. We're saying it doesn't return anything, but we're saying if the hitter exists, which is the base character, right? Then do your directional hit react, whatever it is. You're going to get the hitter get actor location, right? The base character's location. We're going to pass that into the directional hit react we just defined, okay? Then we're going to spawn particles at that impact point. And the impact point comes from the get hit implementation, wherever we're getting hit from, okay? Impact point. So the particles are going to come out of wherever you hit with your sword or whatever you're striking with. Save. Next, we want to do a couple things. Now that we've got the base character and we've made base character inherit from hit interface, we're missing a couple pieces. One piece, if you notice, we're missing is the set weapon collision enabled. We're going to get back to this in a second. This needs to be added, or else we won't be able to do anything. But for now, I'm leaving it here. So I'm just pointing it out that it is empty. Okay. So I'm going to say DevOps get commit -m. We'll say added hit interface to base character. Okay, we did that. And then we're going to go to the main character. So again, I'm going to close this off for now. Come back to it. But I want to work with one thing at a time. So here's the main character. And what we want to do is we want to add this in to the public section. So again, public down in here. Let's clean this up. We removed, kind of like that equipped weapon. Now we're adding this implementation. And then in the protected section, I want to add this hit react end. So we're also going to have that when the hit reaction's over. And that's going to be only for the main character. And that's why we're adding it in. So way back down here. So again, it's going to be in the protect section down here. I'm going to add it into, it's not really an interaction. It is blueprint callable. So I'm going to kind of put it down here. We could add a category to it if you really want to, if you want to track where it is. So I could, kind of add it into a category. I haven't done that yet, but you could. So that's the hit react end. All right. And then what we want to do is, after we've defined everything, which we're going to do right now, There it is. So we have two pieces to define, right? One of them is the get hit implementation. The other one is hit react end. And let's talk about the first one, the get hit implementation. So if I go back to here, then all I'm doing is I'm keeping the super get hit implementation. The super get hit implementation means I'm going to use the basic thing to spawn particles and all that kind of stuff, remember, from my base character. That's what this comes from. So if I go to definition, it's going to launch, sorry, let's go to base character for a second, base character SVP. The get hit implementation for base character, again, it spawns the particles. So that's kind of, everyone does that. When you get hit, you spawn some blood or whatever. That's what this means. And it also does the directional hit react. We do that in the base character. And so we don't stop that in the main character. We do that stuff still, okay? We also check to see that the action state, our action state is not a dodge, right? If it is a dodge, we don't want to be hit. So we're doing it two ways. If, you know, the enemy tries to strike us and they're seeing us dodging, then we don't want, you know, for us to be hit. But just in case, because sometimes what happens is the weapon's still live as it's coming out of the character while they're dodging, right? So we include this as well to ensure that we're not going to get hit, you know, as an example, when we're dodging. So we won't do any spawning of particles and all that stuff. We do want to say that when the weapon is, when I'm being hit, then I want to change the weapon's, once I've been hit once, I change the weapon collision enabled to disabled. I'm disabling the weapon, okay? So that's what happens. So set weapon collision enabled, we're going to get back to this, that's on the base character, and we're disabling the weapon that we have then when we get hit. That's what happens. The action state, right, is hit reaction. So we're reacting to a hit. That's what this means, okay? So we're being hit, we react to it, okay? Next, the hit react end. All it does is when we're done reacting, and we have to do this with our montage, we're going to make it so that we're unoccupied. That means we can't, when we're being hit, we cannot do anything until our animation's over. In other words, so getting hit actually disrupts you. It interrupts your action, right? Because if you're in the middle of a swing and you're getting a hit, it's going to change, it's going to activate your animation. So it's going to change what's going to happen because it's going to do the hit reaction. So it's going to stop what you're doing. And it's going to stop you from trying to do something else. Like you can't use your sword when you're being hit, as an example. So this is kind of an interrupt, if you will, when you're getting hit. Kind of cool. All right. So let's, we've added the hit implementation to the main character. We've modified that. Let's put that up on, I'm saving all, and let's put that up on DevOps. So git dot, git commit MSN. We'll say added hit implementation to main character. And all we've done is we're basically saying that we modified a couple things for the main character as opposed to the enemy, because the main character has certain things that the enemy doesn't have. It doesn't have a, you know, an action state. The enemy doesn't. All right, and now once we're done this, we can Control F5 and go back to Unreal Engine. I'll make sure we're just respecting the time to make sure we get everything done. Okay. I'm just liking the fact that there's not an interruption, you know, with anything else. That's a good thing. So it always bugs me. All right, so now back in Unreal Engine, what we want to do is we want to create some of these things. But the problem is if we want to create a hit react montage, we don't really have, we never kind of copy these things for the enemy. So to make the enemy's hit react montage, we need to, you know, to migrate some of these things. So let's do that. So first of all, we have to retarget. So I'm going to go back to this. We haven't done so. Some more retargeting. Good thing is we already have a retargeter. So that'll help us out. So I want to go to Assets, Characters, Animations, and I want to search for any one of these things. I mean, I can select them all like it says here, and you could definitely do standing react large. I'll show you what this is going to do. So if I type in standing react large, oh, doesn't matter how I type it actually, it filters from all those 100 and whatever animations to 200 animations to this. The first 3 are all the ones we want because they're armed left animations. So this one, and this one. This one is armed right, and I want to get this one armed left. So these ones here. So the first 3 and then the 5th one. And then from there, I want to right click, and if I type in, if I select retarget animations, it's going to bring up this retargeter. By default, it auto generates the retargeter. We've already got the retargeter, so we can uncheck this, right? And then instead of that, we have a retargeting asset, which we have called RTG Archer to Paladin. That's what we have. Once we do that, we see that there is already this asset, this association we've made from one set of bones to the other. And now all we need to do is select those items again. So if I type in, what we had before, which is the standing react large. So standing, that's why I say it doesn't really matter what you type there, large, right? And we're going to just make sure that only the left, where it says back, front, left, and right, but only from the armed left, because we don't want it, there's 2. There's also armed right, right? So I want to get this one, this one, this one, and this one, those ones that we want to do. We don't care about the other ones right now. There's also another one where you can hit in the gut. You can be hit in different places. For now, only those 4. I want to click Export Animations, and I want to go to Blueprints, Enemy, Animations, and that's where I want to put them. I'll press Export. So they're going to be exported there. There they are, those 4. And now that I have those, now I can create my montage, right? So I can close this one off. I don't care about that anymore. So first thing is, let's retarget, which is what we did. The next part that we want to do is we want to create a montage. We're going to call this the AM Enemy Hit React Montage. So again, I can do that in montages, where I can go here and make a new anim montage. There we go. We're going to choose the SK Paladin as the skeleton, this one. And we're going to use the AM Enemy Hit React Montage as the name. By default, there's nothing there. We're going to go to the asset browser, and we're going to go to these 4 standing React things. We want to start with from the front. We're going to pull that in. So that is from the front, then from the back, left and right. So front, back, left, and right. There's our the 4 montages. For the first one, the first section, we're going to call this from front. From front. And then we're going to add a montage section for each of these, just like we did. This is from back. Make sure that it matches with the start of the animation clip. Then this is going to be from left and from right. There we go. Okay. So now that we have all these things, we just definitely going to go to the montage sections and clear them because they don't want them running into each other. To be preemptive, I know what I need to do. I'm going to double click on each one, and because they're all root motion. So we're going to double click on the first one, scroll down and click on enable root motion, close this one down, and then go back to that one and do the next one. Right, and again, I want to click on root motion, close that one down, go back to this one, and this one, just do them all so that they're all ready to go. And this one. So they're all been checked off as root motion. That's important, otherwise it won't work properly. And now we're going to go here. Now as you see that the root motion is a series of splines that are here, that's what you should see. You can check all these ones out if you want. So this is what the back looks like. You get hit from the back, right? And this is what the left looks like, where you get hit from the left side. And the right side looks like this. Okay, those are all the React montages, or the React cues, if you will. Right. So now what we want to do is we have this. These are all the things that we have. We're all good, for the enemy. The enemy doesn't need a hit react end. They don't care about that stuff because their weapon is going to be, they're not going to be, they're going to be stopped, but it's going to be different for the enemy compared to the player. The player has other things to worry about. Let's do the same thing now for the player. Player is going to need a few things. It's going to need a hit react end. All right, that's what it's going to need. So let's go back to the player now. So let's get rid of this. And let's do the same thing this time with the montage for the player. So we have the enemy. Let's go to the character, and we're going to go to animations here. We're going to make a new anim montage. This time we're going to check the archer skeleton AM hit react montage, right? And when we do that, we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to go to the asset browser and grab those standing. So we'll say standing. What are they called again? React large. React large. It's important that we get the right ones because the archer has everything, including the ones we don't care about. Right. So again, what we want is from the front, this one. From the back, from the from the left, make sure it's again the right one that you want, and from the right, this one. Make sure it's all the right. It's the armed left is what you want. You don't want the armed right because there's two armed right montages, and there's another two armed right here from the gut armed right, unarmed. If you're unarmed and standing, react large from the right. As an example. So there's other ones here that you can use as well. We don't care about those. Just like before, we want to create the montage sections. So this is from front, from back, from left, and from right. There we go. So all those ones, we want to clear those ones so they don't happen the way they were. Just before we move on, we're going to change these so that they're enabled root motion, right? It's important. We're going to do all of them. Notice that they look the exact same, and they should, because they're the exact same animations, just retargeted to another character. Again, all I'm doing here is making sure that they're all checked, right? So that there's nothing that I've missed, because that would be very bad. And then when we open that up, you should see all of them. Again, these whole tracks. So if you go here, see that that one follows that track. Then we go here, and then that one follows this track. Then we go here, that one follows that track. Okay, so there we go. So we have all the different animations that we have for all those things. Now we need to have a hit react end because that's what we're missing. So we need a track like that. So here for the player only, hit react end. Okay, and then just like we did before, we want to track to the end of the hit reaction, which is basically here. If you do it too early, then you can do other things in the middle. Like you basically got hit, so boom, you got hit from the front. So when you're done around right here, that's where you put in the add notify, new notify, hit react end. There we go. I'm going to copy that, copy, and then move the hit react into this one. So again, you're being hit from the front. When they're ready, about there, paste. Same thing with this one. You're here and you move over there, and then just as you're up, probably around even there is fine. It doesn't have to be the entire length of the animation. Paste, and then back, and then they're kind of ready about there, I would say. Paste. Okay, so those are all the reactions. And that's the only thing that the character needs differently than the paladin or the enemy. All right, good. Hit reactions are done. Now we need to do this in the ABP main character, the animation blueprint, because the animation blueprint needs to be tracked. So ABP main character. What we want to do here is we want to say that hit react end, that's the new notify, that's the dodge end, just like we did before. We want to kind of go here, and then from there we're going to say hit react end, which is the function that's similar in C++. Let's just file and save. And then what we want to do is we want to modify the attack montage. But before we go there, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. And if I go to my character for a second, right now they can't do anything. But I want to go to combat. And under combat, we have a few things here. We have a react montage, and we have some of the hit particles. So the hit react montage, we can do AM hit react montage. This one, this is the characters one. We also have some particles, and it's this P body bullet impact. This one, P body bullet impact particles. That's the particles that are going to be spawned so far. Okay, so that's what we need. Compile and save. Similarly, let's go back to this. Like file, save all. We need to do that too. I want to go to the enemy for a second and do the same thing with the enemy. So the enemy also has that combat section. And they also have the hit particles, same kind of hit particles, blood. And then the hit react montage is the enemy, BP enemy hit react montage. This one. So that's the two that it has. So we want to map those, because otherwise without those we can't move, right? So they're there now. Okay. So we've really mapped the hit react montage. I'm going to save all. I'm going to go back to here, and we're not quite done, but I'm going to do another commit. So git add dot git commit -m. We'll say added hit react montages for enemy and character, because we didn't have those before. It's a good place to do that. There we go. We also migrated. We could have done a commit when we did the migration, when we added the new assets. We could have done that too. Again, adding more commits is not a bad thing, right? So, all right, back to this. So now that we've done this part, and before we go on, we can test to see that things still work, and they do. So we can kind of like pick up an item. There we go, and we can kind of dodge out of the way. Well, we can't register a hit anymore right now because we haven't done that. We've been able to we have the hit montages, but we just don't get any hits registered. Okay. To show you this, we can go to the weapons. So again, if I go to items, weapons, base weapon, and we can turn on, if I go to item properties, I can turn on the show box debug, so that'll show it, right, for the item to show the reactions. So let's show what that means. So again, if I go here and pick up the weapon, and if I strike, let's see what happens when he strikes me, right? Nothing. You can see there's no reaction to this at all. We can strike each other, and there's no reactions turned on. Because we don't have that enabled yet. We're going to do this in a second. Okay. Next, and here's where that's going to happen, because notice that we have weapon box enable, disable. We don't have the weapon box by default is disabled, right? So let's do this. So we're going to start with the characters montage. So again, character animations. We're going to go to AM attack montage for the character, and we're going to do a couple things. One, let's change this track so it's attack end. So attack end. We're just going to make sure that it's clear that this is what this is. The next one is we want to add in 3 tracks: weapon box enabled, weapon box disabled, and attack sound. Let's add those in. Let's just add the tracks. So again, notifies, add notify track, weapon box enabled. Okay, and again, add notify track, weapon box disabled. Add notify track, and then I believe it's an attack sound, right? So those are the three things that we have, right? So weapon box enabled. Let's track this a little bit, and let's do this, kind of the first part. So it's going to be here, and then as the character's striking, like maybe here that's when the weapon box is going to be enabled. Here, we don't want to get him by accident hitting up here. There's nothing that's happening here. We want to hit him about right here, something where just when the character's hitting. So weapon box enabled, that's going to be here. It's going to be different for every animation. So add notification, new notification, weapon box enabled. Okay, and let's do all the weapon box enabled first. So again, for this attack, it's going to be about here, something like that. Okay. So again, I'm going to go here, copy it, and go to there, and paste it in. That's where that's going to go. For the last one, it's going to be here, and it's going to come up. So probably around here, where it's going to, the sword is going to be cutting up into the guy. Here is where the weapon box is going to be enabled. Here. Paste. Okay. Weapon box disabled. Let's do that one. So I'm going to come back to this one. So weapon box disabled. So he's struck in and he's done, like right here. So nothing. So he's done really short. So again, I'm going to say add notify, new notify, weapon box disabled. There we go. Copy that one. Move to the new one. So K is enabled here and he's struck through. So maybe here. Really short, right? Paste. Not too far. The longer these things are enabled, the more multiple hits might happen, which you don't want. Okay. And then from here and kind of comes up, maybe up there, from here to there. I don't say too much more than that. So again, paste, weapon box. So a really short thing, because we don't want it to do much like over here, right? This is just the way the animation looks. So this one, the two things are done. The whoosh sound for the weapon, that's going to be the attack sound. So I want to kind of happen when where she's just swinging. So maybe like just before this, like up here. So here, add notified, you notify, attack sound. Again, there's other ways of doing attack sounds. For example, I could add a new notify, and instead of doing a new notify, I can specify play a sound. So that's another way of doing it. Or I can play a particle effect right here without actually, kind of using the animation blueprint. There's like a lot of default things that we can do right in here by the stuff that's built in, or we can make a new one. Okay. So that's one. So copy. And so again, it's just before he's going to swing, and I would say right here is where that sound is going to be, just before he swings. She swings. Paste. And the same thing goes here. So whoosh right here, just before she swings, something like that. Paste. So that is the attack sound for the player. Okay, so that's all the attack montage has been modified with different events basically that goes on. And then in the animation blueprint for the character, let's go there. So save that. We can close the animation montage now for this. I'm just going to go to the characters thing, and now we have those three different events: the weapon box enabled, weapon box enabled, the weapon box disabled, weapon box disabled, and the attack sound. Attack sound. There we go. Those are the three events for the player. And then again, we want to get a reference to the main character here, and here, and here. So those are the three things we're doing. We're always getting a reference to the character when we do the event. We don't want to make it central. It's going to be at the time of. For here, weapon enabled is set weapon collision enabled. So when it's enabled, we don't want no collision. We want it to be query only, no physics collision. Because we're going to do, remember, we're doing a we're using the visibility channel for this, okay? And then when we're disabled, we want to make it no collision. So we turn off collisions when we're disabled. And then for the attack sound, we get to get the equipped weapon, and we want to make that also a validated get. That's important to do. Here's a validated get. And we're going to say from the equipped weapon, we want to, if I do attack sound, we want to play the attack sound. There we go. So that is, the stuff that we want for the animation blueprint to work. Compile and save. Oh yeah, we need this. There we go. Okay. So that is your animation blueprint for the character. That's done. Next, we want to do the same thing for the enemy, but you can see the enemy has more stuff, more of these tracks, because we've already started with the enemy attack montage. Let's do that. So in the enemy's attack montage, so enemy attack montage, there it is. We already have a few notifies, and we're going to add more of them. That's all we're doing. So again, we want to add the same tracks. We want to add weapon box enabled, weapon box disabled, and attack sound. So again, we'll add those in first. So add notify, weapon box enabled, add notify, weapon box disabled, add notify, attack sound. Okay, so there's just those are just the notify tracks. And now again, for the weapon box enabled, you get to figure when this is being done. So it's very critical you do this right. Okay, so you want to be hit here, like something like really late, guys, like just when it's striking. All right, so something like this, just when it's about to strike, like right here, before he's put his foot down, because again, you don't want it from here, basically. Right, so that is the new track. So again, we're going to say add notify, new notify, weapon box enabled, and for the new one, and the other one, this is difficult because he's also using root motion. So I want to track it properly. So again, he's swinging, and he's going to do a downswing, and just when he's doing this, like something like here, is where you want it, something like that. So paste, copy, paste. And the same thing goes with the last one. So this one is even trickier because this one is a jump. So you got to think about when you want this to be enabled. You don't want it to be enabled too soon, right? Because again, it can like strike a guy. So probably like right here, just before he's going to strike the character's head, like before he comes down, something like right here, right? So this is where it's weapon box enabled is here. Paste, right? It's going to be longer than the other ones because it kind of comes down to here probably, right? So that's going to be longer. But let's go back to the weapon box disabled now. So again, weapon box disabled. I want to go to this one. Let's just turn down the speed of this thing, so we'll make it a little bit more controllable. Sorry about that. So again, we start tracking here, and then we're to here. Probably the most we want to go. So here, and I'm going to say add notify, new notify, weapon box disabled, right? And just like the other one, we're here, we're striking. I always marvel at the Paladin's legs and weird things that they've done with this model. And then from here, that's it. It's really a small motion because you don't want to do too much, like be from here basically to here. I don't think much more than that. Maybe there. Paste. Again, the longer you do this, the wider the where start and end is, the more chances you'll have like multiple hits happen. Okay. Same thing with this. So weapon box is enabled around there for the jump attack. and disabled when they land, about right there. So again, right there. Paste. Okay, so kind of the same for all of them. Attack sound, again, just like before, what we want to do is we want to make the attack sound as he swings. You can see it from way back there. So he's just about to swing, and that's where the attack sound is going to be, right here. So we're going to say add notified, new notify, attack sound. And same thing goes with here, just before the swing. So whoosh, right here. It's almost like actually there. Almost the same. So copy, paste, and same thing goes with this one. So he's whoosh, like right here. Okay. Now we have all those, right? Then what we can do is go into the animation blueprint for the enemy and do the same things that we did for the players, because we need to do that too. We need to turn off and turn on those things. So again, weapon box enabled, weapon box disabled, attack sound. By the way, here's something to think about. We have templates for or super blueprints for things like characters. We also have super blueprints, super classes, things that you can derive from for animation blueprints too. So the animation blueprint, you can create actually one that's common to both the player and the enemy if they're doing similar things, like this. There's duplication here, right? So we could have done something with the blueprint here as well. Okay, so weapon box enabled. You get the enemy. So here's the enemy reference. And we'll put that in all those places, because we need that too, right? Same thing that we did with the player. There we go. And then for this one is set weapon collision enabled. This one would be query only, no physics. And we'll just do it the other way around, set weapon collision enabled. And then we'll say no collision this time. And this one requires the get equipped weapon, where we want to make this a validated get, because we want to make sure that the weapon exists. These are too close together. Move them down a little bit. And then from the equipped weapon, we want to play attack sound. There we go. Okay. Simple, beautiful, like so. All right, and let's close that off. So now we have sounds and everything else that the weapon and the player make. File, save all. Make sure that we do that. We mapped these already. We did all this mapping ahead of time. And we do want to do something with the enemy. So we've done the player's hit implementation, but now we need to do to see what the enemy would do, which is different than what the player would do. The player, they change states. The enemy, they also change states. They detect the player, and if they detect the player when they get hit, even if you're getting hit from behind, if you hit an enemy from behind, they detect the player, right? So then they'll come at you. When the player is detected, they'll change to the combat target to the player when they get hit. Okay, so this is kind of what happens all the time. So one thing we're going to do is we're going to file, save all, and close this off, and just do a small commit as well. So we'll say that we're going to go view terminal, git dot git commit -m, and we'll say adjusted attack montages. Well, we'll say update. How about that? Updated attack montages instead of adjusted, to include combat notifies. There we go. All right, so that is another commit, and now we're able to do that. So let's close the main character down and open up the enemy. There we are. And then in the enemy again in the public section. And what we want to do is here, we want to put in the get hit implementation for the enemy. We don't just want to do the super. The super is included. We also want to do this. So again, the super is making the particles and getting the hit reaction. But what we also want to do specifically, that's common to both. You get hit, you bleed, and you change. You do your react montage. But here, for the enemy, we want to check to see if the hitter is the character, right? And if the hitter is the character, hopefully you can track that, then player is detected as true. When the player is detected as true, we clear the patrol timer, we change the combat target to the player, that's how it was before, right? And then we change the walk speed, right? And then the enemy now is chasing. We move to the move to target. When we move to target, what is that? We set the goal to the whatever the target is. We're going there, and we stop at the acceptance radius, 25 units, I think, or something like that. And then we keep moving to that target, right? So that's what happens to the target. What happens though is when the on action radius overlap happens, and it happens to be the character, then we clear the patrol timer and we start the attack timer. The attack timer, which is way down here, changes the state from chasing to attacking, and then we set the timer so that after 1.25 seconds, right, we start the attack sequence. We do an attack, right? Every 1.25 seconds, actually, we play the attack montage. So this is where that happens, where we enable, disable that weapon and all that kind of stuff that happens there. So that is definitely that's happening there, and that's why we needed to do this custom hit implementation. We wanted to make sure that when we get hits, we detect the player. That's what we need to do there. All right, so now that we've done that, we do need to make a couple changes to the on action radius overlap. So if I go to on action radius overlap, sorry about that, not end overlap, this one, right? So far what we're doing is we're saying if we have a character, then clear patrol timer and start attack timer. But I want to make sure that we have a combat target. And we're also going to start the attack timer here. So it's a bit of a bug that we have. So I want to kind of fix it by putting this stuff inside of here. So that's the first one. We check to see if there's a combat target. We didn't do that before. What if there's not? And then the other one is if there's not a combat target, then I want to clear the patrol timer. And now we're going to the next patrol point, right? So that's what we want to do there. All right, again, this is optional. I'll be honest. I'm not happy with if on action radius overlap, as an example. This happens with when I'm only if and only if I'm in patrol state. There should be another check here that says like, well, only do this if the character is not detected, So there's some things we can improve even here, right? So we're not going to do that right now. Next, I want to make the item.h execute the hit. So there's two parts to the hits, messaging again. One part is I want to react to the hit. The other one is I want to make the hit happen. We haven't done that yet with the item. We're going to modify item to make that happen now. But first, we're going to put this up on DevOps because we modified the enemy to do their own hit implementation. So git commit -n will say added hit implementation to the enemy. So custom hit implementation, which allows us to react differently when the enemy gets hit compared to the player. Player gets hit, something else happens. It changes the states. Okay, so now we don't need this anymore. Let's open up item again. And so first thing is we're going to add this to the protected section, which is an execute get hit. Okay. So this is where I'm actually going to do the hit. Like what happens when I'm hitting, okay? The actual item itself. And let's do that by going here and generating definition. And then what I want to do is do a couple things here. I want to say this. I want to say that base character, I want to cast it as, if I can cast the hit actor to a base character. So remember, the box hit can be anything. It can be, I can hit the ground, I can hit a wall, a door, whatever. So when I hit a base character, then I want to be able to cast it as. I want to check to see if I can take, the box hit and, use the, I can convert it to the actor. Next, the owner character, right? I want to cast the base character and get the owner of the base character. Who is the base character's owner, right? Kind of thing. And that is going to be the owner character. So if the base character and the owner character exist, then I check to see if I can cast the base character as something that's hittable. So the hit interface basically says, is this thing hittable? Base character means that I can hit either enemy or character right now. It doesn't hit the wall. So even if I strike the wall, it's not going to do anything to the wall right now. That wall is not hittable. Okay. We can make the wall hittable by implementing the I hit interface on the wall, and we can have a different hit implementation when the wall gets hit compared to when the character gets hit or whatever. So here we can execute get hit, as an example. We've already done this. Execute get hit to the character at the impact point. That's what happens. That's the execute get hit. Execute get hit is so there's two parts. There's implement get hit and execute get hit. So execute get hit happens on the hit interface, right? It's almost like I'm calling the receiver, right? At this point, here's the receiver. So then I'm saying basically, if I go back to the character, right? So here's the, let's go to the main character for a second. So here's the main character. We have the hit implementation. This is the get hit implementation. Let's go to definition. Here, you can see that when they get hit, they take two things, the hitter and the impact point. Okay, well, if I go back to this, it says, let's do two things, right? We're going to hit the get hit. I want to hit the hitter and the impact point, those two things. There's an extra piece of information for us, right? Which is the box hit actor, right? But that is really what we're getting, the hitter and the impact point, right? So once we've done this, right, and we've sent this information off to the wherever is getting hit, they can react to it. And again, remember, we're also taking in this box hit result because that is what's happening with the execute get hit. Okay, so now that we've got that part, we want to call execute get hit. We haven't done that yet on the on box overlap. So again, execute get hit on box overlap, this one. So right after the box trace is done, right, we want to take that box hit. It gets processed. The box trace processes the box hit. So that's what the box trace does. Remember? So I'm going to just recall here. Box trace, it creates a ray trace between the box start and the box end, right? It creates that thing, and it basically says, hey, am I enabled? If I'm enabled, use the visibility channel to hit. And if I'm hit by the visibility channel, that's awesome. Send back the box hit, which is full of information about the impact point and other things. Return that, because it's a reference, back to the caller, which is up here. Execute get hit uses that box hit information, right? And all we care about with execute get hit is the impact point. Whatever the impact point is, we derive that impact point from the box hit. And then we can pass that into the get hit implementations. We're saying, hey, we're going to hit you at this place, as an example. We're just passing it through all the way down the functions. That's what we're doing there. All right. Next, we need to, in the a base character again, so base character.cpp, right? So right now we're in item. Item is done. We've done everything we can do so far. We're going to keep item open though. We're going to close down main character, and we're going to open up base character for a second. And under base character.cpp, right, we want to go into the constructor and do two things. We're going to set up so that base characters can be hit, because right now they can't be hit. Okay, we want to make it so that we block the visibility channel for the main for all characters. That's the main character and the enemy. Otherwise, they ignore the visibility channel by default. So base character in the constructor function, we're going to do two things. One, we're going to just make sure that the equipped weapon is null pointer just by default. And then when it gets equipped, we can test for it. And the other thing that I want to do, because we never really satisfy that requirement, the other thing is we set the collision response to channel from the visibility channel to block. So we're going to block visibility channel. The sword works on the visibility channel because it uses like a core no physics, and that's by default on the visibility channel. You can change that, of course. Okay, but that's where it works. Next, we want to finally in the base character, we want to click, complete the set weapon collision enabled function. So here, this part is what we need to do. So set weapon collision enabled. Remember, we left it empty in the base character. Here, we're finally defining what that does, right? And notice it says that equipped weapon, if I hover over, it says item is incomplete. So that means it needs a reference to our item class. So include item.h. Okay, that's what we need there. And that is this, right? It also says ubox component is incomplete. So again, ubox component, I want to add that in, components, box component.h. That's what needs to be added in there as well. So those two things are missing because we never had those. So now let's take a look what it says. It says, okay, so when we set the collision enabled, we said there's two parts. Either it's disabled or not. If the equipped weapon is true, then we say the weapon box itself, we set the collision enabled on the weapon box to whatever we set it to, whether it's enabled or query only no physics. Those are the two options. And that's all this little function does. Save. Okay. And before we go to Control F5, what we're going to do is we're going to make those changes here in DevOps. So save all. We're going to pull this up and we're going to say, so a couple of things we did. We added the execute get hit. We made it so that hitting is possible. Is what we really did. So we're going to say get at dot. We could have made multiple commits here. Get commit -m. We'll say enabled the ability, or the hit ability. That's what we kind of did. We didn't. It wasn't enabled before because we couldn't enable the weapon. We did all this at once just now. First we tested everything else. We're ready to go, and now we enabled this part because we want to make sure that that works properly. And now, if we go back to Unreal Engine, let's test it out and see what we have. Because basically, what we wanted to, we've already done this part, and then we want to see if we can see all this stuff happen, which is basically the ability for us to see weapon hits and reactions and blood particles. Okay, so we want to be able to see that stuff. So let's wait till this succeeds and launches Unreal Engine. And then if everything goes well, we should be able to see all those wonderful things. Now it's going to be busy when we look at this on the screen the first time, because what's going to happen is you're going to see these like big weapon boxes that come out. And we can turn it off. We can also make it so that it's a little bit less visible. Not all parts of it need to be visible. There's lots of stuff we can do to improve the debugging, but for now, all I want to know is when I hit, I hear that sound, right? And I see blood. And we can slow it down. We're going to slow it down so we can see it because sometimes it's so fast, especially with all those things. We also want to test to see how we did with our set weapon enabled disabled part for each animation. Remember, those animations could also be use a tweak. We haven't done those tweaking. That was up to you really to do. So back to this. So I'm gonna play. Okay, so now there's a couple things. So one is when I'm moving, I can see that this thing in front of me is sparking up. So why is that happening? And I'll tell you why. All right, so there it is. So far I can see look at that, how I get rocked back. And I can see the blood particles and all that stuff. let's slow them down. Let's really slow this down. So I'll try it again, and I'm going to go to slow-mo. So again, here, and I'll go to slow-mo 0.5. Let's go 0.2, really slow. So there's a reason for this, right? So I'm going to run over to my weapon. Maybe 0.2 is too slow. Maybe we should have waited. This is okay, but this is good to see this, right? So I can grab my weapon, right? Oops, too close. I grabbed it. I heard the sound, and now I'm running towards my, the enemy who hasn't detected me yet, right? And now let's see if I can strike the enemy myself now that I have him. So I kind of go towards the enemy, and as I'm closer, I'm going to do the attack. Now let's see if I can do it. I'm probably going to miss here. Oh, I hit the ground, right? And that is not good. So the ground is accepting the visibility channel. We don't want it to accept. I don't know why it's accepting the visibility channel, but it is. We're going to turn that off. But here, notice even if I'm at the enemy, let's see this. Do I hit him? There we go. It hit him, but it's not green, right? And he didn't react. So a couple problems, right? It's making the sound, but without actually doing the hit. And we'll talk about why that's happening, right? So there we go. Hit him again, no reaction, right? And this is happening because, again, you got to realize that I've got to be in the right state to hit him, right? Got to be close enough. All right, so that was 2 hits that I heard. Boom, boom, right? Let's try that again. So let's come right into his view this time. So he's right in there. And now, boom, right? So I hit him. I can hear the sounds, but right? And he's not hitting me. So there's a problem right there. So if I move back, I got staggered, and look, it stopped my hit from happening, right? There. I kind of hit him, and he kind of hit me, right? Lots of stuff, lots of information, right? So that kind of didn't hit me. And it made the sound, but it didn't hit me. And that also hit me. That hit the ground. See, that hit the ground right there? That hit me. Actually, that actually did hit me. Missed completely. The hit reactions for me to the for the enemy hitting me works fine, but the hit reactions for me hitting the enemy doesn't work great. And there's also extra sounds that are being made, like I said, when I'm actually not being hit. Like that's not really a hit. That's not registering as a hit for different reasons, by the way. It didn't really hit either. Okay. I can move out of the way. Not really a hit. So that doesn't count as a hit. The hits only happen when I see that green mark. I missed completely. Now this one, let's see if I stand still, even that missed. And you can see where it hit. It kind of hit that part right there. Let's take a look. Right? Without hitting me. Almost like he needs to be at range. There we go. That was a hit. See, that was the green hit. That hit me. And it also hit me twice. Look at that. So it kind of hit me a couple places, right? Like that hit react needs to be tweaked a little bit, right? That also hit me. Look at that. I'm being hit twice, 2-3 times. So even though it's disabled, it's like, that was a good one. But it got me on the upswing too. So it's almost like it didn't quite get disabled. When it was enabled, like the disabling, see how it hit me on the way up again? Hit me on the way down and on the way up. That's bad. That's not how it should work. So a couple tweaks we have to make. So one is the ground, right? So the floor itself if we look at the collision for the floor, we don't want the collision for the floor to, have this work, have this happen. So collision presets, where it's block all dynamic, we're going to make it so it is custom for the floor, just to avoid this. And what we're going to say is we're going to ignore the visibility channel. So visibility channel, we're not going to hit the, with the floor. Bad and good. For now, if we had a gun and we were striking at the floor, or if I tried to hit the floor with a sword, if I wanted to hit the floor with the sword, it wouldn't work. So that's the first thing. Next, let's check that code to make sure it's working properly. So in here, right, when the collision enabled is passed in, right, set collision enabled, that's the type. Collision enabled goes through here. Set collision enabled is what's coming in. All right, so that's what's happening with the set collision enabled for the weapon box. We enable it, but it stays enabled. The disabling part doesn't happen, not for the enemy. So let's see what happened wrong there. Is there something that's going on that's keeping that thing disabled? So first I check the animation blueprints to make sure that it looks fine, because I'm getting hit on the upswing. So weapon box disabled is happening, and it changes the set collision enabled to disabled. That's what happens. No collision. That's what happens there. Query only no physics. That's when it turns on. So I turn it on, weapon box enabled, and weapon box disabled is off. That's number one. Two, now we check the enemy montage to make sure that that's not an issue. So animations, montages, enemy attack montage. Let's make sure that we didn't copy them. So we have disable, disable, disable. Ah, look at that one. There's two enables there. That's why even on the upswing, remember I was saying it's kind of weird. And look, there's another one, enable. So there's two enables there. That's wrong. So this one has to go. So see, I'm saying something was wrong. I was like, that's way too many hits. It's like, I was like, wow, let's try that again. So he's there, and remember I was saying like something was wrong there. It's not reacting properly. All right, so weapon box enable and disable is there. That's what I want. So this one is what I want. Maybe I just copy paste the wrong one. Paste. It's a short thing, okay? And the same thing goes here. Up and so it's working. It was just working too good. And down. There. Paste. Disabled. That's got to say disabled over the blah, right? Excellent. So that is the first problem. We finished that problem. The other one is the player. I didn't like the way the player is working at all. So let's go to the character and let's go to their two things, their animations. Let's go to the attack montage. Make sure that's okay. I think it was. There's disabled, disabled, enabled, enabled, enabled. That's good, right? What about the animation blueprint? Is that good? Animation blueprint. Query only, no physics. When the weapon is enabled, disabled, no collision. This looks good. This looks good. Now I haven't been able to see this happening, but we also went very slow, right? So I want to see if we have a problem with the main character attacking or not, okay? We play a regular speed now. Let's see if that happens. I'm going to kind of go over and grab the weapon and then makes the sound. And can I get hit a lot more than he does, for sure. He is so fast compared to me. Let's dodge out of the way. Whoa. Can't seem to get a reaction from him at all. I'm not getting green on him at all. He's reacting. He's knocking me back, but I'm not. I think it's so fast, right? Even though I'm registering like the sound. It do. is just to test this guy out because he's like so fast. I'm going to slow this guy right down. Him slow down, but not me. So the way to do that is in the enemy, and I'm going to go to the attack montage for a second for the enemy. This part. Well, there's two ways. I can just never enable the box, right? So I can kind of go to the animation blueprint for the enemy. That's kind of the best thing to do. So enemy, just I have to remember to turn it back on. Animation blueprint. And literally I'm just going to go disconnect. So I'm not going to be able to turn this on and off. So he's never going to be enabled. I want to know what the heck's the problem. So I'm going to grab the source. He can't rock me anymore. I want to make sure that I can rock him. That's a good hit. Okay. So a couple of issues, right? So let's go with the let's go look at the enemy itself. So now I know that it's not working. I know it, right? So let's do a couple things here. So what I did was I changed the mesh, if I'm not wrong. And if I look at the mesh itself from a collision perspective, remember I said that it blocks the visibility, it ignores. Look, so this is something that's happened. So maybe when we created the enemy itself, here's something. Notice that this is visibility is ignored. That's why the enemy is not working. So there's a bug, right? The enemy's not working. We'll turn the visibility to block. That's what it's supposed to be, right? Notice that that little reset goes off, right? Camera is definitely ignored. We want that to happen. We want to ignore the pawn, ignore the vehicle, but that definitely is something that we want. So that's the problem with the enemy. The enemy wasn't responding because he was being ignored. The other thing that's happening is that casting, the thing that we're casting, it's reacting, with the characters. The character is actually casting out an interact radius, right, kind of thing. And that's what's happening. That's not like that, that's perform sphere trace. That's happening here. So if I go to the player, not here, but player, 1 second. So that's the main character. Sorry, I know I'm running over time, guys. Just bear with me. I'm almost done. So the main character.cpp, they've got a perform sphere trace that's happening, if you remember, right? So here's the perform sphere trace. And under perform sphere trace, the way it works is it's using the visibility channel, right? And when I am hitting it, like ignores the add ignore actor to this, right? But what we want to do is the actors to ignore. We also want to ignore any equipped item. So the equipped item itself needs to be something that we ignore with this trace once it's equipped. So it's not, when the item is not equipped, we don't want to ignore it. But when the item is equipped, we do want to ignore it, right? So remember, we had this thing. So that's something we can improve. We won't do it today because we're running out of time, but that is something we can change because otherwise it's going to respond because of the visibility channel. All right, so back to this. It's just glowing red and whatever. Let's check this out to make sure that that was the issue. And I'm not, I wasn't wrong. So again, I'm kind of going here, run, pick it up. And now let's try. He can't hit me, but I can hit him now. Hey, look at that. It's working. There we go. And it works okay. Getting react mode. He's really fast, though, like super fast. There we go. Well, he does get rocked. There we go. Only a second, though. So we want to slow this down. And that's the point for you to do in a second. Okay. So that is all good. Let's turn back on the enemy's reaction so they can hit me. So now there's this. And now we're ready to go. All right. So save. And I'm just going to go file save all. And we'll put this up. This is the final boost. So we actually enabled everything. So we fixed the bug. So view terminal. and we're going to say git add dot git commit -m, and we'll say fixed bug with enemy being or ignoring visibility channel. That's really it. So now for you to do. So now that we've done this for you to do for ICE 11, what I want you to do is make some improvements. I want you to add a second enemy to the level, right? I want you to add several patrol points to loop around the house if you haven't had that already, or just other patrol points if you already got this happening. The second enemy will follow the patrol path and speed up the character attack montage. And you can do that by changing the rate scale. And what I mean by that is if you go to the characters, because I think they're a little slow, the character attack montage. If you go here and you change this, I want you to play with this rate scale for the attack montage. It's too slow. And I also think not just the attack montage is too slow, but I also think the dodge montage needs to be improved as well. So it needs to be sped up, okay? Then I want you to go to the enemy CPP, and where the start attack timer is there, maybe you want to fool around with this number. This number is really fast, 1.25 seconds. It's like every second this guy is going to attack, and he's attacking really quickly, like he's being activated and deactivated. So what you can do is make this, you can make this a bigger value, like 3 as an example. Might be something you want to check, right? Then what you want to do is you want to navigate to the get hit implementation of the enemy, and you can do a couple things here. When the enemy gets hit, you can stop them by clearing the attack timer. So this is something you can try and do. And then the enemy will move towards the player. That's what this is, right? Then you can restart the attack timer again, which delays them by about 3 seconds, and or whatever the number you put in. So this is definitely one thing you can do. Optional, you can set up a delay, so another timer that you are waiting, that you're going to be waiting for when they're hit, they need to recover a little bit. So basically they kind of stagger. You stagger them and you wait for them maybe another half a second before they can come back and do something. They're kind of in like an occupied state. And you can put them in that state again for a while, because remember, they can't move or attack unless they're finished doing what they're doing, right? So you can do that again. I want you to try and play with these, kind of numbers to see, and there's other things you can check as well to see if you can make it more playable. You don't want to make it so that the enemy is impossible to beat. Right now, it's like really fast. And put 2 of these guys on the player can't do anything. All right, so I want you to fool around with these numbers, and then the last thing I want you to do is build your project again, because I think it's important for you to continue to build and make sure that all these things that we're doing work in a built project, as opposed to how it's been doing right now. Questions around ICE 11, and I'll get to I'm going to mark your stuff very soon too, because I want to get caught up before next week. Anyone? I think it's pretty straightforward. I think it can be fun to do some of this stuff, and we finally have enemy damage. One thing is, the other thing we can also check, we haven't done, is how much damage is being done. You can actually do some output. We'll do that next week to actually see like what happens when we take damage. We could add a health bar to the player and some other things, and we could add almost like a dead state. So when the player gets hit and they fall down, or the enemy gets hit, they fall down, and then we'll stop next week with something like that. That's where we're going to end. And then next semester, we'll continue on with this project and add things like a destructible environment, perhaps. We'll build a different landscape. We'll start building the different levels and that kind of stuff, where the enemy can start, the player can interact with different items, perhaps open doors and interact with other things, and maybe other things that we haven't had a chance to do, right? We're also going to be doing multiplayer and AI at the same time. It's a lot. But you're going to see me like a lot of hours next semester, and I want to make sure that you guys have all the tools you need for the game that you're making. And that's it for me for today, guys. If there's no questions, I'll see you guys next week. Thank you for bearing with me. There's snow is, I'm just looking out the window here, the snow is starting to come down in my area a little bit, but it's not really that fast. Maybe a little bit too preemptive, but I wanted to make sure that no one was trapped. All right, my friends, take care.